The first thing I noticed was her laugh. Not the fake one she gives when she's trying to be polite, or the short one she uses when she wants me to stop talking. This was that deep, knee-jerk laugh. The one she used to make when we first met, before she started checking her phone mid-conversation, before I had to remind her I existed. She was across the room, champagne in one hand, standing in a circle of strangers I didn't recognize. And she was glowing. Not "my wife is happy" glowing. More like "I don't remember here with me" glowing. This was my event, my team, my name on the invites. Months of stress, meetings, vendors canceling last minute, and printing mistakes no one would ever notice, unless they were me. It was supposed to be my night. And there she was, laughing like this was her vacation. I waited, patiently, for almost an hour. People kept coming up to me, coworkers, clients, that guy from IT whose name I never remember, all asking questions, shaking hands, praising the setup. And still I watched her. I watched her forget I was in the room. She didn't make eye contact once. Not a nod. Not a smile. Not even the awkward, "I'll come over in a sec" gesture. Nothing. Like I was the ghost at my own party. At some point I walked over. I had this weird hope, like maybe she hadn't seen me yet. Maybe that's why she hadn't said anything. Maybe she'd turn, light up, and say something like, "There you are. I've been looking for you all night." She didn't. In fact, when I stepped into the circle, she paused mid-sentence and said, "Oh, you're still here?" Still. Here. I laughed too, just to save face. And then I left. I walked right out the side entrance, into the cold. No one followed me. No one noticed. Not even her. She didn't text until 2:13 a.m. 3 words. "Where'd you go?" That's when I knew. This wasn't the beginning. This was the middle of the end. I didn't respond to her 2:13 a.m. text. What was I supposed to say? "Sorry I left my own event early because watching you flirt with strangers made me feel like a coat rack in a tuxedo"? No. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed itself, and I rolled onto my side, eyes wide open in the dark. She came home at 3:07 a.m. I heard her heels in the hallway. Not rushed. Not guilty. She dropped them by the door, made a little noise in the kitchen, probably that nervous snack she always has when she's been drinking, then slipped into bed without even checking if I was awake. She didn't smell like wine or perfume. She smelled like air freshener, the kind they keep in hotel bathrooms. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. Made coffee, scrolled Instagram, asked if I wanted to go to brunch like she hadn't spent the night before actively pretending I didn't exist. I said I had work to catch up on. I didn't. I just couldn't sit across from her chewing on pancakes while pretending I wasn't unraveling inside. The shift started then. I didn't accuse her of anything. Not yet. I didn't know what to accuse her of. I just started noticing small things. Her phone, always face down. The way she started showering at odd hours. The new passwords on things she used to leave open. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid, some fragile, insecure man getting jealous because his wife was the center of attention at a party. But then came the note. It was Thursday night. She asked me to grab gum from her purse before we went out. I dug around in the usual mess, receipts, lip gloss, folded tissues she never throws away. And then I found it. A crumpled yellow sticky note, wedged in a zippered pocket she never uses. 3 lines, scrawled in her handwriting. I read it once. Then again. My stomach dropped. Friday, 8:30, S. Won't be there. Room 314, check in under Eliza. Bring your own wine this time. It wasn't for me. I put the gum in my pocket and said nothing. Sat across from her at dinner like I hadn't just read the confirmation slip of an affair. I watched her laugh at a joke I didn't make. Smile at something on her phone. She looked happy. Relaxed. I wondered how long it had been since she smiled like that because of me. I couldn't remember. And then the server brought a second wine glass. Jenna smiled politely and said, "He doesn't drink." The server smiled back. "Oh, sorry," she said too. Jenna looked confused for half a second. But only a second. Then she laughed. "I guess I just hoped he'd change his mind tonight." I smiled too. I didn't change my mind. But I had made a decision. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask who S was or why she needed to check in under a different name. I didn't bring up the room number or the wine. Instead, I pretended to be exactly what she'd already decided I was. Oblivious, gentle, harmless. I smiled when she kissed me on the cheek before heading to her yoga class on Friday. I waved from the window like a goddamn sitcom husband. But inside, something had cracked. I didn't go to work that day. Instead, I drove to a gas station 3 blocks away from the hotel on the note. I sat in the parking lot with a lukewarm coffee and waited. She didn't text me. She didn't call. I watched the clock turn 8 o'clock, then 8:15, then 8:28. I drove past the hotel once, slow enough to catch a glimpse of the lobby, but not so slow it looked suspicious. I didn't see her. I parked on a side street, killed the engine, and waited. 8:34, she walked in. Hair curled, black coat, carrying the exact bottle of red wine we'd gotten as a wedding gift and never opened. One she once said we'd drink on our 10-year anniversary. It was our 5th. I didn't follow her inside. That would have been dramatic. Obvious. No, I waited 10 minutes. Then I walked up to the front desk, asked if I could use the restroom. The guy behind the counter nodded, barely looked up. I slipped down the hallway and found a quiet stairwell. I sat on the cold concrete steps and waited again. At 9:12, I heard a door open 2 floors above me. High heels. 2 voices. One male, one female. Laughing. A soft thud against a wall. A quiet shhh. Then nothing. I left. I didn't go home. I drove aimlessly for hours, through neighborhoods we used to walk in, past restaurants we'd argued in, past the movie theater where she once cried because I forgot her favorite candy. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt this hollow calmness settle into my chest, like the kind of silence you only hear after a fire. The next morning, she came home in the same coat. Her eyes were tired. Her hair was flat. She didn't try to lie. She just said, "Sorry I didn't text. Yoga ran late. Went out with the girls after." I nodded. Cool. That was all. And something about that scared her. I could see it. The way her eyes flicked toward mine, then away. The way she paused before opening the fridge. The way her hand trembled just slightly when she reached for a glass. She was expecting a fight. She was ready to defend herself. But I gave her nothing. No reaction. Just peace. Because peace, when someone knows they deserve war, is terrifying. I had no intention of begging. No interest in exposing her lie. I was going to let her keep digging the hole she didn't know I'd already found. That was the weekend I started changing passwords, transferring files, downloading bank statements, backing up phone records, canceling joint subscriptions, one by one. Quietly, slowly, deliberately. She cheated in secret, so I would ruin her the same way. By Monday, I had access to everything. Jenna never suspected I knew the passwords. She always thought I was too passive, too nice to care about things like privacy invasion. And maybe she was right, at least before Friday. But by Monday, I wasn't her husband anymore. I was the man she never thought I could become. Quiet, watchful, and unforgiving. I started with her email. The one she never logged out of on the iPad. I'd never gone through it before. It felt wrong at first, like breaking a rule neither of us had spoken out loud. But then I found a folder titled Travel Plans. Inside were hotel confirmations, calendar invites labeled as conferences that didn't exist, and an archived message from a burner Gmail titled, "I missed last weekend." I remember reading that line 3 times while she sat across from me on the couch eating cereal, watching a show we used to love, like nothing had changed. I glanced up at her between bites, at her messy bun, her oversized hoodie, one of mine. I used to think she looked cute like that. Now I realized she just wore it when she needed to feel safe. Like some part of me was still protecting her. That made me sick. That night, she asked if I wanted to go to her sister's birthday dinner the next weekend. I said yes, but I knew there was no birthday. Her sister had texted me 2 days earlier asking if I could help her move a couch on Saturday. I smiled and said, "Sure, I'll make the reservation." She smiled back, like we were healing, like maybe the weekend helped us reset. The fact that she could lie that easily, that comfortably, with no flicker of hesitation, that's when I knew this wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't an accident. This was a habit. This was who she was now. But I didn't react. Again, I just played my role. By Wednesday, I had downloaded every message from her second Instagram account, the one she didn't know I knew existed. She used a slightly different variation of her name. No photos of her face, just sunsets, hotel rooms, and cryptic captions like, "Found peace again," and "You make me feel like no one else does." The messages were worse. Voice notes, screenshots, flirty comments under shirtless selfies. Most of them were from him, the man in the navy suit from my event. His name was Tyler. I learned that from the Uber receipt she deleted but never cleared from her Apple wallet. Tyler was a personal trainer at a gym across town. Divorced. 2 kids. Drove a black SUV. He liked whiskey, country music, and apparently, my wife. Thursday morning, I scheduled a trial session at his gym under a fake name. I walked in like I belonged there, shook his hand, and told him I was looking to start fresh. He smiled, told me we all needed that sometimes. I looked him straight in the eyes while he said it. He had no idea who I was. Not a clue. And that was beautiful. I let him talk for 30 minutes about fitness, discipline, and personal transformation. He said he worked better one-on-one. Said he liked to build trust with his clients. I nodded, pretended to be impressed. And then I left without booking another session. He texted her 2 hours later. Met the weirdest dude today. Hope you're not mad I skipped your wine bar idea. Didn't feel safe meeting up again so soon. That's when I knew he was scared. She was losing him. And she didn't even know it. Because while she was too busy managing her lies, I was writing the ending. It started with little things. Not explosive, not theatrical. Just shifts. Quiet fractures. Jenna began coming home earlier. Not dramatically so, just 20 minutes here, half an hour there. She'd walk in, take off her coat, and hesitate. Like she was listening. Waiting to feel something in the air. Guilt makes people paranoid. She wasn't sure what had changed, but something had, and she could feel it without knowing why. I didn't treat her differently. If anything, I was nicer. I asked how her day went. I poured her wine before she could reach for it. I let her pick the movie and didn't complain when she scrolled for 30 minutes without choosing anything. I smiled more. I kissed her forehead more. I became the version of me she pretended I wasn't. And that terrified her. By the end of that week, she checked my location twice. She didn't know I'd seen it. My phone logs everything. I'd been sitting in the same cafe both times, sipping burnt coffee and reading old texts between her and her sister, comparing lies. I learned to stop reacting to pain. I just observed it now. That Saturday, she suggested a weekend trip. Just the 2 of us. Said we needed a reset. I said yes. I packed her favorite snacks, her playlist, even printed directions like I used to when we first dated. She seemed genuinely excited, or maybe just desperate. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. We stayed at a cabin 3 hours north, nestled between a frozen lake and a pine forest. No reception, no distractions, just cold air, firewood, and silence. She clung to me like someone trying to recover a broken connection, but I was already gone. I let her hold my hand. I let her kiss me. I let her cry once while pretending it was about the movie we watched. I didn't say anything, just brushed her hair behind her ear like I still loved her. She asked me that night, in a whisper, "Are we okay?" And I smiled. Of course we are. That was the moment I realized how powerful silence is. She wasn't scared I would leave. She was scared I already had, and she couldn't find the moment it happened. When we got back Sunday night, she didn't unpack right away. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. I saw the notification before she could hide it. Tyler had blocked her. No explanation. No last message. Just gone. She looked pale. I waited for her to bring it up. She didn't. But over the next few days, she became more jittery. More affectionate, but in a clumsy, guilt-ridden way. She started cooking again. Woke up early. Played music while folding laundry. Our music, the kind she hadn't played in years. I almost laughed. Guilt is such a cowardly motivator. By Wednesday, she asked if I was happy. I told her I was the happiest I'd been in months. She smiled, but I saw the twitch in her eye. That subtle panic when the lie doesn't land the way you expect. She asked if we could start therapy together. I said yes. I even picked the therapist. She didn't know he was a friend of a friend, someone who already knew the full story. That didn't matter. The point wasn't to fix anything. The point was to watch her squirm in a room where honesty was mandatory. She had no idea how close she was to the edge. And the most dangerous thing? I hadn't even pushed her yet. Therapy began on a Tuesday. Jenna was 20 minutes early. That was new. She sat in the waiting room with perfect posture, legs crossed at the ankle, like she was trying to look as composed as possible. The therapist's office was warm, full of little trinkets, wood carvings, green plants, framed quotes about forgiveness. It was the kind of place that tricks you into thinking everyone's safe here. She went first, of course. Spoke softly, hands folded in her lap like a student answering a question she already knew the answer to. She said she loved me. Said she wanted to feel close again. Said she felt like I'd emotionally distanced myself, and she wasn't sure why. I nodded along, silent. The therapist did too. I could see the confusion in his eyes, though. He already knew the script, but he had to let her act it out. When it was my turn, I didn't accuse her of anything. I didn't mention Tyler. I didn't bring up the hotel room, or the wine, or the burner account. I simply said, I feel like I disappeared from her life, and she didn't even notice. The therapist asked what I meant. I smiled calmly. She started treating me like wallpaper. I was just there, background. I think I started matching her energy. I stopped speaking up, stopped asking questions, stopped making space for myself. Because she made it clear I didn't matter. That shook her. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was undeniably, horrifyingly true. She didn't cry. She's not a crier. But she blinked more than usual. Her voice cracked when she said, That's not fair. You never told me you felt that way. I turned to her. You didn't notice. I was screaming, just not out loud. That line hit her like a slap. The therapist scribbled something. Jenna didn't speak again for the rest of the session. That night, she made a full dinner from scratch. Candles, soft jazz, a dress she hadn't worn since our anniversary. She didn't say much, but her eyes kept drifting toward mine, like she was waiting for me to kiss her, touch her, reach out. I didn't. I ate. I complimented the food. I helped with dishes. Then I went to bed early. The next day, I printed everything. Emails, screenshots, text threads, hotel receipts, burner profile data, bank transfers, deleted messages recovered from the cloud. I didn't show her. Not yet. I just kept it all in a folder in my desk drawer, somewhere she never looked. Somewhere I made sure she'd find eventually. That Friday, I told her I had to leave town for work. I packed a small bag, booked a hotel across the city, and waited. I watched the house from a block away. At 7:42 p.m., a car pulled into the driveway. I didn't recognize it. I didn't need to. A man got out. Not Tyler. Someone new. I didn't take a picture. I didn't need proof anymore. She was trying to distract herself from the fallout she felt approaching. That panic, that itch to cling to anything that made her feel wanted again, it made her sloppy. And sloppiness, for someone who's been so calculated, is fatal. The next morning, I left a note on the kitchen counter. Just one line, written with the same pen she used on that sticky note I found weeks ago. You don't even know what you've lost yet. I knew she'd read it. I knew she'd look for me. I knew she'd panic. And I knew exactly what was coming next. I turned my phone off for exactly 36 hours. No alerts. No vibrations. No pull to check and recheck like some desperate animal sniffing for danger. Just silence. The kind of silence that would rot her from the inside. I knew her. Knew how she needed to feel in control of every narrative. How the not knowing would eat her alive faster than any confrontation ever could. When I turned it back on, I didn't check messages. I didn't need to. I could already picture them. The first would be casual, like, hey, just making sure your meeting went okay. The next would sound a bit more clipped. Are you coming home tonight? Then desperation. Please call me back, I'm worried. Then anger. Seriously, where the F***K are you? And finally, panic. Full spiral. I didn't reply to a single one. Instead, I walked into our house Sunday morning like I'd just come back from the grocery store. Calm, collected, keys in hand, reusable bag dangling from my fingers. She was sitting on the floor in the living room in the same clothes she wore 2 days ago. Mascara smeared. Phone clutched like a lifeline. Eyes wide, like I was a ghost that walked in from a different dimension. I said, you look tired. She didn't say anything for a full 10 seconds. Then, where were you? I set the bag on the counter. Working. Her voice cracked. You didn't answer my calls. I turned to her, completely level. You never answered mine. Not for weeks. Not when it counted. She started crying, which felt strange. Not because I hadn't seen her cry before, but because this time, it looked involuntary. Uncontrolled. Real. It wasn't the kind of performance she used to win arguments or get sympathy. It was panic. The sobbing of someone who just realized the house they thought was fireproof is already full of smoke. She said, I know I F***ed up. I nodded once. Yeah, you did. I didn't mean to. Don't. I raised a hand. Don't say you didn't mean to. You planned it. You had names. Dates. Hotels. You printed out lies like plane tickets. She looked stunned. Pale. Like I had just spoken in a language she thought I didn't understand. And maybe I had. I read everything, Jenna, I said flat. The emails. The fake accounts. The hotel confirmations. I know about Tyler. I know about the guy from last Friday. I know more than you think. And I didn't find out by accident. I studied you. She covered her mouth like she might vomit. Her body curled in on itself. She whispered, "Why didn't you say anything?" That question, God, that question made me smile for the first time in days. Because saying something would have made this about you, I said. And I needed time to make this about me. She begged then, really begged, on her knees, voice shaking, saying things like, "I didn't want to lose you, and I was just confused, and we can fix this." I let her speak. Let her spill every last thread of her excuses and her regrets. I listened like I used to, nodding, patient, quiet. But not because I cared. I was documenting the collapse. When she finally ran out of breath, I said, "I already filed." She blinked. "What?" "For divorce. Last week. My lawyer will be in touch. I'm keeping the house. You can keep the lies." I walked upstairs, packed one bag, the only one I'd need, and left her there, sobbing into the carpet she once insisted we buy because it tied the whole room together. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I didn't even feel angry. Because I wasn't leaving out of rage. I was leaving because I already left weeks ago. It's been 3 months since I walked out. The paperwork went through quickly. Clean cut. No legal battles. I think she knew dragging it out would only force her to admit more than she was willing to say out loud. She moved into a small apartment across town, kept most of the furniture, and I let her have the car. I didn't care. None of it mattered anymore. The real separation had already happened long before she signed her name on the dotted line. The house feels different now. Lighter. I sleep with the windows open. I play music in the mornings. Actual music, not just the sound of her voice criticizing whatever I was doing wrong that day. I make French press coffee like I used to before we shared a kitchen. I read books again. The dog sleeps on the bed now, curled against my leg like he knows this version of me is finally safe to be around. But it's not just the routines that changed. It's me. For the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm waiting for something, for validation, for attention, for a text that means nothing but used to mean everything. I don't feel invisible. I don't feel weak. I don't feel like a background character in my own life. And the weirdest part? I don't hate her. I thought I would. I thought I'd carry that weight around like a grudge-shaped anchor. But once the dust settled, what I felt wasn't anger. It was relief. Because staying would have been a slow death. And leaving, finally, quietly, was the beginning of something I didn't think I'd ever feel again. Peace. I ran into her once at the farmer's market. No makeup. Hair in a braid. She looked tired. Not in a mean way. Just tired in that deep soul way that people look when they realize the consequences didn't go away when the chaos did. She smiled when she saw me. Hesitant. Careful. "Hey," she said. "You look good." I said thanks. Told her I hoped she was doing all right. And I meant it. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I told her no, but that I was open to it. She nodded, looked down, and said, "I'm glad you're okay." And I was. Not happy every day. Not suddenly healed like a movie ending. But okay. And that felt like a miracle. I'm not writing this to get pity. I'm not writing it for revenge. I'm writing it because someone out there is probably where I was, sitting in silence, watching someone they love vanish a little more each day, thinking it's normal, thinking it's their fault. It's not. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is leave before you forget how to. I didn't lose anything when she betrayed me. I gained something. Me.